to iScope Media. We know about the Russian invasion to Ukraine. We know about all the sanctions that have come across against Russia currently. At the same time, Russia has been banned from a lot of sports in the world sports field. Let's see how it is surviving in a world sports, which is actually fading away for Russia. More and more sports are following the appeal of International Olympics Committee and banning Russian athletics from competing in the wake of the country's invasion of Ukraine. Well, Russia was barred from competing in international ice skating, skiing, basketball, track, and some tennis events also. This was a day after being kicked out of the soccer competitions and hockey. Well, Vladimir Putin's favorite team sport it was. The decisions followed the IOC's request to International Sports Federation to keep Russian athletics out of events they organize. Well, the International Skating Union, the body that runs the sport around the world, said no athletes from Russia or Belarus shall be invited or allowed to participate in events until further notice. Well, Belarus has been a key ally of Russia in its attack on Ukraine. The sports restrictions have drawn sharp criticism from Russia as well. Russia was also suspended by the International Basketball Federation. Well, that will hit Russia's bid to qualify for the next year's Men World Cup. Russia already had one qualifying game against the Netherlands, which was called off last week. The Russian women's team has qualified for a place at the World Cup in September. The International Volleyball Federation, if we take a look at, said it had stripped Russia of hosting the Men's World Championships in August and September and would seek another host country or countries. Volleyball at the same time was also suspended Russian teams and clubs from international events like rowing, badminton, canoeing, and triathlon, which decided to exclude Russian athletes from its competition. Well, the invasion has also led to some sponsors and companies cutting ties. Adidas, the maker of a Russian national soccer team jersey, said it was suspending its partnership with the federation with immediate effect. Now, let's have a look at what each sport or federation is doing currently. Starting with archery. In archery, Russia and Belarus flags and anthems were banned at all World Archery International events. Moving on to athletics, Russia and Belarus athletes and officials were barred from all World Athletics Series events, including the World Racing Walking Team Championship in Oman this weekend, the World Indoor Championships in Serbia this month, and the World Championships in Eugene, Oregon in July. Now let's move on to the auto racing. Formula One cancelled the Russian Grand Prix in Sochi in September. Auto Racing's international body, the FIA, said Russian drivers can still compete, but under a neutral flag. Intercontinental Drifting Cup is Sochi in June was cancelled. Moving on to badminton, Russia and Belarus athletes and officials banned from participating in all badminton World Federation tournaments from March 8. Also, all BWF events in Russia and Belarus were cancelled. However, a few Russian players at two para events in Spain this week and next week were allowed to play as already they were on site, but as neutrals with no flags or anthems. Now, moving on to basketball. Russia team and officials were suspended from all competitions by the International Basketball Federation. EuroLeague suspended Russian clubs CSKA Moscow, Unix Kazan, and Zenit St. Petersburg. Lokomotiv Cuban Krasnodar suspended from Euro Club. Now let's move on and have a look at canoeing. Athletes from Russia and Belarus were suspended from competing in any international canoe federation events. Officials from those countries were also barred from offering any ICF sanctioned event. Moving on to sport climbing. Boulder and Speed World Club in Moscow in April to be relocated. In curling, European Championships in Perm, Russia in November is again to be relocated. World Curling Federation began process to remove Russian entries from the Women's World Championship in Canada this month and the Men's World Championship in Las Vegas in April. In cycling, the International Cycling Union will allow Russian and Belarusian riders to compete as neutrals, but will bar Russians and Belarusians teams and sponsors. Well, now let's move on and have a look at fencing. Alisher Usmanov, a Russian, stepped aside as president of the International Fencing Federation. If we take a look at gymnastics, the International Gymnastics Federation cancelled all World Cup and the World Challenge Cup events in Russia and Belarus. Russia and Belarus flags and anthems were banned in all FIG events. Cancelled events include an acrobatics World Cup in Russia in May and a trampoline World Cup in St. Petersburg in September. Even in field hockey, Russia was excluded from the Women's Junior World Cup in South Africa in April. If we take a look at ice hockey, Russia and Belarus were banned from all International Ice Hockey Federation events. Russia men out of the World Championship in May, World Junior Championships in Russia in 2023 were relocated to Serbia. NHL suspended all business deals in Russia. Finland's Jokerit club withdrew from the Hockey League Conference quarterfinals. Now moving on to judo, Kazan Grand Slam, a World Judo Tour event in May is cancelled. Russia President Vladimir Putin suspended the honorary president and ambassador of International Judo Federation. Well, the Russian president of the European Judo Union also resigned. In karate, one Premier League event in Moscow in October is to be relocated. In rowing, Russia and Belarus athletes and officials banned from world rowing events. If we take a look at rugby, the Russia and Belarus suspended from all international and cross-border club events. Russia men teams barred from Rugby Europe Championship and qualifying for the 2023 Rugby World Cup. Russia women's team barred from the Rugby Europe Championships 7 World Series and qualifying for the Rugby World Cup 7s in South Africa in September as well. Russian Rugby Union's membership of the World Rugby is also suspended. In shooting, Russians and Belarusians were excluded partway through a World Cup event in Egypt. In skating, Russia and Belarus banned from all international skating union events, including World Figure Skating Championships in France this month. Now, if we take a look at skiing, all international ski federation events in Russia to end of the season cancelled or relocated. The World Cup cancellation included ski cross in Sunny Valley last weekend, Aerials in the last week, and Moscow this Saturday. Moguls in Kasbahs this weekend, cross country in Taiman this month, and women's ski jumping in Nizhny Tagil and Tchaikovsky this month. Russia's athletes are to compete under the FIS flag and anthem in skiing. Now let's move on and have a look at soccer. Well, FIFA and Uefa suspended Russian national teams and clubs from all competitions. National men's team barred from the World Cup qualifying playoffs this month as well. Champions League final in May is relocated from St. Peters to Paris. Spartak Moscow barred from Europa League last 16. UEFA cancels sponsorships also from Russian energy company Gazprom, which covered Champions League, UEFA national team competition, and the 2024 European Championship. In squash, World Junior Championships in St. Petersburg, Russia in August to be relocated. In swimming, world governing body, FINA rules all Russia and Belarus athletes and officials to compete as neutral with no country flag colors or symbols. FINA order awarded to the Russian President Vladimir Putin withdrawn. World Junior Championships in Kazan, Russia in August is also cancelled. Meanwhile, Diving World Series in Kazan in April is also cancelled. Now let's take a look at Taekwondo. World Taekwondo and European Taekwondo Union will not organize or recognize any event in Russia and Belarus. Russia and Belarus flags and anthems banned in all international events. World Taekwondo withdrew honoring 9th Dan Black Belt conferred on Russian President Vladimir Putin. Taking a look at tennis, the International Tennis Federation cancelled all of its events in Russia and postponed a minor tournament in Ukraine in April. Russia and Belarus are barred from the team competitions like the Davis Cup and the Billie Jean King Cup until further notice. Russian and Belarusian players will still not be allowed to play in the ATP and the WTA with the national flags and at the Grand Slams as well, but they will be allowed without the national flags. Now let's take a look at triathlon. World Triathlon banned the participation of Russian and Belarusian athletes and officials from all international competitions or official events. Taking a look at volleyball, men's world championship in Russia in August is to be relocated. Volleyball national league games in Russia in June and July is to be relocated. Weightlifting European youth champions in Kazan, Russia in August to be relocated. And now if we take a look at the other sports, at Winter Paralympics, Russia and Belarus to compete as neutrals with no national flag, anthem or symbol in Beijing starting on Friday. Well, a Sport Accord, a World Sport and Business Summit in Russia in May is to be cancelled. Well, this was all about how each federation and each event is doing after Russia's invasion to Ukraine and how they are banning it from playing in the different federations and different tournaments. Also, we have seen that how these the Russian sports can be played in different federations and tournaments, but without any flag or symbol or any of their color. Well, this was all about this entire sports and Ukraine being invaded by Russia and how it is affecting Russia's sports in the world sports. This was Aparna Sundar reporting for iScope Media.